You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
Ancient tools and burials, plants and seeds, Neanderthals.
Welcome to the Archaeological Fantasies Podcast, episode 90. Your host today is Sarah Head with her co-hosts Ken Fader and Jeb Card. Today's their first episode of 2018. Happy New Year. Today they take another look at executive orders that are affecting places like Bears Ears. They look over the laws that actually protect sites like Bears Ears and discuss what may or may not happen if the executive orders are passed. They also report back on 2017, what they've learned, and how they've grown since they started the podcast. Thanks to everyone who listens, and thanks to the contributors that help put a great podcast out every other week, which includes the producers. Get ready to think critically.
I getting it? Maybe? Digging in a trench, monument.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Archaeological Fantasies Podcast. I am your host, Sarah, and I am joined today with my co-hosts, Ken Fader and Jeb Card. How's it going, guys?
It's going well now. Just finished grading, and so that's been kind of a real ordeal, but now I'm done with that. So
yep. Mine went today too.
Yeah.
Well, I got my grades back today, and they are satisfactory, so I'm happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll say my students did very well. My students did very, very well.
Good.
See, mine's a real mixed bag, but I will now be getting emails from students who will question why they got the D in the class, and then you have to instruct them on how to determine an average, and then they stop emailing me.
Yeah, and you also have to tell them this is where the class was, so that in case you ever thought you might have attended.
No, here's the thing. That's funnier or not funny at all, because I actually had a student who missed the first month of the semester and who came into class, and I said, well, where have you been? He said, well, I couldn't find the class, and every time I went looking for it, nobody could tell me where it was. And this was a month into the semester.
Oh my goodness.
That's fantastic.
That is astonishing.
I feel kind of sorry for your student, actually.
He decided that, I mean, I can't believe that he was actually telling me the truth, but well, that's it. It's an interesting approach.
It's a new one.
Much of this year, people have been talking about fake news and alternative facts. But reading the stuff that the Secretary of the Interior, Zinke, has said about why we need to reassess these national monuments, and it's not just Bears Ears. It's Bears Ears and Grand Stairway, the Escalante, but a bunch of others. Reading what he has said, listening to what he has said in press conferences, and listening to what the senators and representatives in Utah some of them have said, and what supporters of shrinking Bears Ears have said. It's not just fake news or alternative facts. It's an appropriation of the language. So they say things, and I think I understand what those words mean, but they mean them in ways that are entirely different from how what I understand those words to mean. It is Orwellian.
I say, hasn't Bears Ears always been at war with East Asia?
Perhaps, yes. Well, there's the deal, actually. If you've all read 1984, right, Orwell's dystopian novel about the future, Big Brother, war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. And Big Brother tells you those words are the equivalent. War and peace, same thing. And that's what I hear about Bears Ears and these other national monuments. I'll give you three examples. I have heard over and over again the fact that by Obama making this area the new national monument, that it was the biggest land grab in the history of the United States.
How much land was grabbed, Ken?
Let's see. Do the math. Carry the 3. 0 acres. But here's the thing.
That is a lot of acres. If you divide by it, it makes a number that doesn't exist.
Don't we all know what land grab means? Connecticut in the year 2000.
We don't know what it means, though, Ken. That's
but they've stolen these words. We can't use it. It's war is peace. In the year 2000,
Ken, are you a fracking company or some other kind of extraction company?
Not that I am aware of.
Are you mining for uranium?
Yes, you mining for uranium. Is somebody going to make you slightly less money in the future with uranium off of a public good?
Again, not that I'm aware of.
Well, then clearly you don't have a land grab problem.
And listen, the city of New London, Connecticut, in the year 2000, as part of an economic development plan, coveted a parcel of land for a shopping mall or for office building, and they were working with Pfizer Pharmaceutical. That's obviously a big pharmaceutical company, and they were going to make a ton of money and improve New London's economic outlook. The problem was the land already had a working class neighborhood of single family homes on that property, and then for decades, most of the people who lived there did not want to sell the land to New London. They used the eminent domain clause, and they grabbed their land. They paid them, but the people who didn't want to sell went to the Supreme Court of the United States, sided with the city of New London. New London went out there, took everybody's land, bulldozed their houses. It's 17 years later. That property is a vacant lot. That's a land grab. That's a land grab. The federal government saying, we have this land already. We're going to put a line around it and say we're going to add extra protection. You're not allowed to use the term land grab, because that's not what land grab means.
That's because you're an elitist, Ken. It's because you're an elitist.
I must be. No, well, yes. Well, exactly. And how about this one, though? Zinke had the temerity to talk about opening that Bears Ears back up to traditional uses of the land. When I hear the term traditional use, I think of, all right, Native Americans collect medicinal plants there. I think evangelical Christians baptize their people in that stream. That's something they've done for generations. That's a traditional use.
Oh,
a traditional use is not coal mining.
Okay. Look, Ken, the coal is really old. That makes it traditional.
I guess it does.
Jed does have a point. You're talking about fossil fuels. I mean, if they're fossils, that makes them older than everything else there.
I guess, listen, I think supposing you lived in an apartment complex, an apartment building in a major city, and there was a little city park across the street. And the problem is in the park, you couldn't bring your kids to the park because it was used by intravenous drug users to shoot up. And then you got the police and social service to get those people in a program and clean up the park. So now we can bring our kids there. Do you think next year a politician could run on a platform of let's return that park to its traditional use as a den for IV drug use? I don't think you would win. But you could argue that, it was traditionally used for that purpose. That's not how most people mean traditional, and yet that's exactly what they're saying.
Ken, I think you're being a little elitist here. I mean, the government did just kind of come in and in the dark of night, snatch up all of this land that was for Native American use, and then just erected a giant wall around all of it with electrical barbed wire and stopped letting people even look.
The black helicopters arrived in the middle of the night and took the land.
Well, I will say this. I just want to say a thing. There have been several things involving this that are somehow involved with Whitefish, Montana. Zinke is from there, other things. And if we have any listeners in Whitefish, Montana, please tell me if you need help. This was the same place that the Puerto Rico, the Whitefish Energy, the people that got in so much trouble in Puerto Rico, which is still having massive problems with electricity. And there was some other recent connection there. And I'm like, is this an opening to the reptilian bases underground? Is that what's happening? I don't believe in such a thing, but
Well, when you read the New York Times about what's going on, it could be, Jeb. It could be.
Oh, we're not even going to get into that.
Before we get any further into this, because we obviously have opinions, and that's cool. We did do an episode on Bears Ears and all of that before, but can we kind of, in the last 10-ish minutes of the segment, can we kind of give a little background on what Bears Ears is, national staircases, and why these are important sites to have in the public domain, which is where they were before all of this happened, and why this shrinking of the space is actually not as great as people think it is.
Let me talk. There's one more term, though. I have to throw in one more term that they've stolen, and that is special interests.
All right.
And we all know what special interest means, right? When I read...
Isn't special interest banned? Isn't that one of the new banned words that the CDC's not allowed to say anymore?
Wasn't one of those air? Anyway, continue.
Yes, but it's like remember George Carlin's routine about the words you can't say on television. Well, now we got words you can't say in government meetings.
And apparently, it turns out science-based evidence is one of them.
I guess. So anyway, let me get back to this. When you read it, this is my interpretation. The Secretary of the Interior and the people who support him characterize as a special interest people who like to go outside. So if you like going outside, you are you're a member of a special interest group. If people who like to walk a little bit, hike outside, or to see a beautiful unspoiled vista, or to drive through a beautiful landscape and maybe see some rock art or an archaeological site, you are a special interest. But that the non-special interests are people who own coal mining companies and uranium mining companies. It is war is peace. It is freedom is slavery. It is ignorance is strength. You guys are special interests, but the people who are making a ton of money by mining minerals or fossil fuels, they are not a special interest. You can agree with Zinke, you can agree with the people who want these monuments shrunk, but my God, use the language the way Noah Webster, who by the way lived in Connecticut, intended it to be used.
You just want them to be honest.
Oh, am I asking too much, you think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was not entirely cynical. I mean, basically, that's your issue here. The thing is, look, people actually want these monuments, unless, with rare exceptions, they are involved in various industries that would make profit off of them.
Right.
There are some other reasons. There are people that talk about that don't like federal meddling in local things, but if you poll Americans asking if they want a national monument to protect our archaeological, cultural, historical, and natural heritage and resources, you're probably not going to get a small percentage approving on that. You simply aren't. People actually really do care about elements of the past. They care about the national.
Polls. They've been doing polls for years now. It's like in the mid 90%. 95% of people in the United States say we love those national monuments and national parks and we want to preserve them.
Right.
And that's why they have to change the language, though. I mean, this is a tactic that we've seen. And I mean, I'm stepping outside of the realm of archaeology at this point, but this is a tactic that's been used over the years by many groups to want to change or take back certain aspects of society that they don't particularly agree with for whatever fucking reason. And so the way that they do that, because if they come out right away and they're like, no, I want to mine for uranium and Bears Ears because reasons, everybody's going to be like, no, we don't want that. But if they come out and they change the definition of the words that people are already using, and they change how those words are used and they make them bad, then it's a lot easier to change and control the narrative. And then you can get people to be like, oh, hey, you're not mining for uranium and Bears Ears. You're giving the land back to the people. See how much better that sounds?
And there's a real East Coast, West Coast thing going on here, too, in that the language they're using is it's the Easterners who don't have to deal with these things, who don't need these resources, that these resources aren't going to enrich them. They want to lock these things up so that we cannot use them the way we traditionally have, that we are the special interests in that.
Luckily, it's not like there's a big, huge real estate owner from New York and New Jersey in charge that would make such a decision. Luckily, that is not the case.
Right.
That's an extraordinarily good point.
Right.
I want to bring up one more point before we talk about Bears Ears specifically, and that is the very dark undercurrent that at this point may represent a very small fringe part of this. But if you read enough about about the making Bears Ears smaller, this is for some people merely a first step in ultimately eliminating all national monuments and national parks, because the claim is made that the federal government of the United States has no legal right to own any land outside of Washington, D.C.
I will say this, despite the fact that you just invoked crazy and you said fringe. You'd think I would be all over that. That assumes a level of competence in the people that want to do such things that I don't see.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, that they don't have, that they're incompetent.
No, I mean, I don't even just mean incompetent. I mean even like short-sighted. Like, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that.
Right,
I would not put it past certain ideologues. At the same time, we talked about various and sundry. I have a thing I do want to bring up when we do come back. But we talked about various predictions, and we'll come to that. And I guess what I was going to say was there are various and certain things that I actually feel a little less concerned about, simply because even people I disagree with can be bad at their jobs.
That's helpful. All right.
All right. Let's go to break real quick, and when we come back, let's give a little bit of history on this Bears Ears problem, because we've given our opinions. Now, would you like to know what we're talking about? And then I think we have kind of a special chatter for the last half of the show. So stick around.
This network is supported by our listeners. You can become a supporting member by going to arcpodnet.com/members and signing up. As a supporting member, you have access to high-quality downloads of each show and a discount at our future online store, and access to show hosts on a members-only Slack team. For professional members, we'll have training shows and other special content offered throughout the year. Once again, go to arcpodnet.com/members to support the network and get some great extras and swag in the process. That's arcpodnet.com/members.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Okay, you can do this.
I know. Carvana makes it so convenient to sell your car. It's just hard to let go. My car and I have been through so much together.
But look, you already have a great offer from Carvana. That was fast.
Well, I know my license plate and VIN by heart, and those questions were easy.
You're almost there. Now to just accept the offer and schedule a pickup or drop-off.
How'd you do it? How are you so strong in letting go of your car?
Well, I already made up my mind, and Carvana's so easy.
Yeah, true. And sold.
Go to Carvana.com to sell your car the convenient way.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Archaeological Fantasies podcast. And we are still talking about Bears Ears. And I would like to give our listeners who may not have heard the prior episode a little bit of history on what Bears Ears is. Are we talking about literal bear ears, or we're talking about a national monument? It's a legitimate question for some people.
Yes.
The staircase monuments, that one was also up. And there's a variety of other national monuments that are being challenged by this stupid idea, which all have a very interesting minority thread to them that doesn't seem to be affecting non-minority national monuments. But again, that's another conversation. But Ken, can you tell us a little bit about what Bears Ears is and why it was made a national monument in the first place?
Right. Bears Ears is the most recently named or designated national monument. We have 129 national monuments in the United States. 23 of them have as a major focus Native American culture history. And the others are, there's both colonial history, European history, it's the natural beauty that has inspired the designation.
And these are all designated under the Antiquities Act.
The Antiquities Act of 1906, that was the brainchild of Theodore Roosevelt. I will read you very briefly. This is Section 2 of the Antiquities Act. The President of the United States is hereby authorized in his discretion to declare by public proclamation historic landmarks, historic and prehistoric structures, and other objects of historic or scientific interest that are situated upon lands owned or controlled by the government of the United States to be national monuments, and may reserve as a part thereof parcels of land, the limits of which in all cases shall be confined to the smallest area compatible with proper care and management of the objects to be protected. So what that says is the president has the right to unilaterally take federal land that's already administered by the federal government. It can be Bureau of Land Management. It can be National Park Service. It can be fisheries and wildlife. It can be the Department of Defense. Lands that are owned by and administered by the federal government can be named national monument. And again, part of the law, and this is the thing that's going to come up in the court cases, is this phrase that it has to be the limits shall be confined to the smallest area compatible with proper care. The thing about Bears Ears right now, or before Trump, the Department of the Interior, the Secretary of the Interior, Zinke, just declared that this is going to be shrunk. It was 1.3 million acres. And I know that sounds like a ton of land. And so the argument in court will be, well, that's way more than we need to set aside in a national monument. The fact is, and I've been in the area and I've spent a bunch of time down in southeastern Utah, and the density of archaeological resources, the density of the rock art and ancient prehistoric sites and cliff dwellings and surface dwellings is incredibly high. It's argued that it may be about as high as you get anywhere in the United States. And so there were actually decades of discussions and compromises made about what would be the smallest unit possible in which we could provide protection for this density of resources. Originally, the hope was that this would be a nearly 2 million acre national monument. It was negotiated down to 1.3. Well, could you go ahead?
Well, let me ask Ken. Is this because it's the unique nature of this place, or is this also maybe reflecting how archaeology, I'm thinking of landscape archaeology, how archaeology has changed how it understands things? Like, you know, the idea of a site is a very, in some ways, I don't want to use...
It's an artificial.
Yeah.
Artificial, you can call it artificial.
You see what I'm asking?
Yeah. And Jeb's absolutely correct. It is extraordinarily difficult. You know, biologists these days say, you know what? Drawing a circle around a bunch of animals and calling that a species, and drawing a circle around another group of animals and say, well, that's an absolutely separate species, is ignores the complexities of animal life on the planet. Drawing a circle around a lithic scatter, or around some architecture, and saying, okay, that's the end of the site, and now out there is non-site, that also ignores the complexities of the archaeological record, which is a palimpsest that goes on for thousands of years. And in this particular part of the world, it is extraordinarily difficult to make any kind of a definitive circle and say, all right, once you get past here, there is nothing. And that was part of the negotiation giving Bears Ears 1.3 million acres, was the notion that, well, you could kind of isolate and eliminate some areas, but then you would have 1.2 million acres and you'd have 26 national monuments. This is the same kind of thing that we deal with all the time. I sit on the Historic Preservation Review Board in Connecticut. So any of the nominations for a National Register for our state come through that board before we send it along to the Department of the Interior. And when people designate historic districts, there's always this, well, how big can the district be? We don't want it to be so small that we eliminate important resources, but we recognize that when we make a big circle around a district, there will be pockets within that circle that don't quite qualify. And so there's always this negotiation. And that's what happened with Bears Ears. That again, the archaeological record is so dense as we now define it, that it really was, you couldn't cut out any more of it without eliminating important resources from within those borders. But again, remember, this is all federal land in the first place. So again, It's not like they were taking land from the state of Utah or taking land from private landowners. This was all federal land in the first place.
Well, and I think that gets back to what you were saying earlier, where I sort of poo-pooed it a little. I don't think we're going to see a revocation of the idea of federal land, but that doesn't mean that there are people that believe in the concept that there are not people that do not believe in the concept of federal land.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a much broader and longer discussion here about how folks in the West perceive the federal government in terms of land controlled by the BLM and by the Forest Service. Look, my state of Connecticut there's less than 1% of the land in Connecticut is owned and administered by the federal government. Jeb, I think for Ohio it's 2 or 3%, maybe.
I don't know, but I wouldn't. That sounds about right.
In Utah, it's more than 65%.
Yeah.
In Nevada, it's 81%. That's not because the federal government wants to control people's land. There's a long history that involves after all, remember, this was all Native American land, and the federal government ended up getting it through treaty, by war, in some cases by purchase. And then the federal government's, in the 19th century, the federal government's goal was to distribute that land to people, to get people to move west. The Homestead Act, 1862. They give you 160 acres if you moved west. And all you had to do was a little paperwork and file a claim to the land. And you got free land. The problem is you look at Utah and you look at Nevada, and that land is not good farmland. The good farmland was taken up by people following the Homestead Act and subsequent laws. But so a lot of that land was locked up by the federal government initially because nobody wanted it. And now the federal government at the same time realized, we have these wonderful resources, these terrific places that maybe we would like to set aside. We are a wealthy enough nation that we can set places aside for the future, for recreation, for hunting and fishing, for hiking and climbing, and for doing archaeological research. And that's what Bears Ears is all about. It is an incredibly dense, an area that is incredibly dense with archaeological resources, that if you start picking and choosing and cutting things out, you are going to leave behind some very important archaeological sites, rock art sites, and cliff dwellings, and on and on and on. And that the federal government, with Obama, when Obama was president, decided, this was worthy of protection.
Well,
and it's like,
but they don't. Well, here's the thing, Ken. I'm sure everybody in the federal government agrees that this Native American focused monument is worthy of protection, because it's not like anyone at the top of the federal government, especially, let alone in lower levels, would, for example, go on national and international television and, I don't know, use racial slurs in front of Native Americans. That would never happen 2 weeks ago.
Here's one of the things I kind of wanted to get out there, because it's
in front of code talkers, in front of veteran code talkers, that would never occur.
But the problem, I think, I don't think the president believes that Native American people are real. Like, I literally do not think he believes that Native Americans exist. And so I don't think there's ever going to be anything you could say to change his mind about protecting native lands, because he simply does not believe these people are real. I don't know what he thinks they are, because obviously they are people. They were standing in front of him, but I don't.
I'm not going to get. I'm not going to get into psychoanalysis. I'm really not. That's not a joke.
No, but
I don't have an opinion on that.
But I think that affects a lot of this, and there's other political bullshit that went into his decision for this, and that's why we're losing the land. I don't think he sees the value of it one way or the other than his quote unquote special interest groups have convinced and or paid him enough money to chop these places up for them.
There's an interesting broader history here. A lot of national monuments, when they were originally designated, there was a lot of local opposition for many of the same reasons we're hearing now regarding Bears Ears. By the way, the Bears Ears, it's a geological feature. It's a couple of mountains and it looks like two Bears Ears. And so it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful vista. That's why it's called Bears Ears. But I'm going to read. This is from when Yellowstone was named. This is before National Monument. It was going to be. They were talking about setting it aside and not allowing.
What's the date on
exploitation, mineral exploitation?
There you go.
1872. There's the Montana's Helena Gazette published. We regard the passage of the act to protect the area as a great blow struck at the prosperity of the towns of Bozeman and Virginia City. When Mount Olympus National Park, which is in Washington, was named, newspaper, we would be fools to let a lot of foolish sentimentalists tie up the resources of the Olympic Peninsula in order to preserve its scenery. And then late 1962, Utah Senator Wallace Bennett, He said, this is regarding the naming of Arches, Bryce, Zion, Capitol Reef, and Canyonlands, which are the 5 big national parks in Utah. He said, all commercial use and business activity would be forever banned, and nearly all of southern Utah's growth would be forever stunted. So the hysteria about how, oh my God, you're naming Bears Ears, this is going to completely destroy the economy of Utah.
Right.
We have heard this before. And then, of course, billions of tourist dollars, including a lot of foreign money, comes in because people want to see these areas. And, you know, it's very hard. It's hard to understand this without looking at it in historical context. The deal here is there are folks who want to mine coal, folks who want to mine uranium, folks who want to drill for oil and gas, folks who want to timber the land, to cut down trees, and folks who want to graze their cattle on the land. There definitely will be. They will definitely curtail the mining, mineral extraction, but timbering and grazing is still going to continue in the area within Bears Ears. That's something that the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, has long done, and they will continue doing that. The federal government has outright said these traditional uses of the area contained within the Bears Ears are going to continue. I suppose if you're really paranoid, you say, well, yeah, of course the government's going to say that, but they're lying.
Well, if I can't convince you with facts, then I can't convince you. I mean, that's what you have to say to those people.
Well, I'd like to. I think we are probably.
We got about 5 minutes yet.
I think we're probably coming. Okay. Well, then I'll start it here. Then let's just go here.
Sure.
Today is the 19th of December. And the House just passed its tax bill, and it's passing on to the Senate. And this bill has been routinely described by many analysts who know things more than I do as an open hostility of some states versus others. You know, the idea that this will in essence have more impact on some states, red states and blue states. And this is not a surprise. So I guess where I'd like to take this, because I think that you all are talking about wonderful things about why we should protect this and why we should protect that, and using reason and arguments. And my response to that would be, well, and as Sarah was basically just saying, that's not going to fly. Like we're not in a place where reasoned arguments are going to work. And I think what that leads us into is, we'd like this to be sort of our first of the year or end of the year kind of, you know, where have we been? We did this last year. And we talked about how the stuff that we talk about is more relevant than ever.
Right.
The stuff involving, epistemology, the stuff involving how the hell do we know what we know? Claims, fake claims, and conspiracy. Because it's not like we haven't had daily. We are now in conspiracy land. Mm-hmm. We are now in conspiracy land. Never mind that the president is someone who has been a huge supporter of numerous conspiracy theories. He accused one of his rivals of being the son of a co-conspirator or potential co-conspirator in the JFK assassination.
Right.
He alleged other conspiracies during all of this. He's continuing to allege conspiracies inside the FBI. And to be fair, there are criminal investigations, including some guilty pleas of actual conspiracies amongst his peoples or things that look like conspiracy. This is where we are. Like this is now our daily
reality.
This is our daily bread. Oh, never have I understood the world better than I do at this very moment. And I really wish that wasn't true. And we've said this before.
Isn't it?
You know, I mean, never mind that there was some crap that I'd love to talk about, but it's not very archaeological, involving the United States government and UFOs and conspiracy theory on the front page of the New York Times, including written by a ufologist, one of the authors. That happened.
Good stuff.
But this is where we are, where we have conspiracy theories about the FBI. We have conspiracies about this. We have people, you know, shooting up pizza parlors because of conspiracy theories about draining the swamp of this and that. Just boom, 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 boom. And that's why Bears Ears is being hit. There's two reasons. One, it's simple money.
Yeah.
It's uranium.
It's a lot
it's
of
other
money,
things.
and that's always been a
Can we
problem.
talk about the uranium bit a little more before we go back on the point I'm trying to make?
I mean, yeah, go for it.
What's going on there? No, it's not me. It's Sarah. Sounds like you know more about this than I do. So I'm saying.
It's mainly allegations. There are minor deposits of uranium within some of the areas that were declared part of the Bears Ears National Monument, and that was some of the kickback when the National Monument was declared during Obama's administration. It's just very suspect that the areas that are being trimmed out of the Bears Ears National Monument are the areas that happen to be adjacent to and possibly full of uranium, and that these trimmings will benefit. There is an actual uranium mine there. They'll benefit the borders of this uranium mine. So it's if you want
what you just described, what you just exclaimed is a conspiracy theory, but one that is quite logical.
Apparently, there's some evidence that a large uranium mining company, in fact, contacted the Trump administration specifically and expressly to complain about lands in Bears Ears that they wanted removed from the monument.
And lo and behold, those are the lands that were part of the thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, making that kind of an outlay for a single individual, that's quite a corker.
Oh my God! Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I use a corker in the old-timey sense of the word. Nothing at all involving a senator from Tennessee.
No. There's also, and this is a lot. This is again a very serious thing that in some on parts of the Navajo reservation where there are old uranium mines that have never been mitigated. Cancer rates and strange, bizarre cancers that are not seen like anywhere else in the United States are concentrated among Navajo and especially Navajo children. So it's not, these mines have never been addressed by a Superfund, or they're just left to give off radiation, and it's directly affecting the health of Navajo.
Well, again, we saw the respect given to the Navajo code talkers recently. So,
well, yes.
I mean, let's be fair. No, it's easy to lambaste him for the fact that he doesn't even know what a code talker is. So screw him. But we have an incredibly bad history as a country of being respectful to anyone who happens to be Native American. So, I mean, this is just more shit on top of the shit that we've already shoveled on these lands and these peoples. And it's just, honestly, we should just be ashamed of ourselves. I'm sorry. But let's go to break on that happy note.
Well, here's the thing, though. That what enrages me is how Zinke, in his announcement, talks about having been in contact with the most affected parties in scaling back Bears Ears, and he specifically mentioned Native Americans. He
was in contact with them long enough to be like, screw you.
But the designation of Bears Ears was inspired by a coalition of tribes.
Yeah.
The Navajo, the Hopi, the Zuni, and two bands of the Utes. Mm-hmm. And the Navajo and Hopi don't get along very well. To get those two tribes to come together and as part of a coalition to fight for designating an area as a national monument is a big deal. Yeah. The Navajo, you probably can find individual Navajo who say, no, this is a bad idea. But the tribe, this is a government. The tribal governments have supported this from the very beginning, and they're the ones who are suing. They're among the litigants who say they're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. Whether or not they will win is an issue that I think only lawyers can ultimately solve. And
I wish them the best of luck, and I think they probably have a fairly decent case. I'm not going to make any predictions because I don't really know enough. And my cynical side comes out in these situations, but I feel like they actually have a chance this time, and I wish them the best of luck.
Here's the deal. There's nothing in the Antiquities Act that specifically allows a president to rescind a nomination or to change the boundaries of a nomination. However, presidents have in the past revisited previous presidents' nominations and even their own, and have, in most cases, done little tweaks.
Yeah.
They will present that as the people who support eviscerating Bears Ears will present those as precedents. The lawyers who will be arguing the case against cutting back Bears Ears will say none of those cases were adjudicated. In none of those previous instances did anybody go to court. So there's no judicial precedent. It may be that all of those, although they happened, it may be that all of those were illegal. Because if you're a strict constructionist and you believe only what's in the law, president has no right to do anything. He or she has the right to draw the boundary, but not the right to redraw the boundary.
Right, and that has to be an act of Congress, basically. But
this is going to be in the courts for years.
Right. Well, it's going to be in the courts for years. And before we go to break, because we are literally going to break after this, this will be in the court for years. As crappy as it is, it's kind of good that it's happening because, like Ken said, this is going to create a legal precedent. And hopefully it comes out the way I want it to come out, because I am a big L liberal and think that it should. But if it doesn't, it does create a precedent for people to fall back on. And we will finally have a legal definition of what the rights of the president is in these situations. But let's go to break real quick. And when we come back, we'll do final thoughts and maybe talk about our 4th season on the air.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Interested in archaeology? Want to hear from experts in the field about the latest discoveries and interpretations? Check out the Archaeology Show every other Saturday and let hosts Chris Webster and April Camp Whitaker take you deeper into the story. Check out the Archaeology Show at www.archpodnet.com/archaeology and subscribe, rate, and comment on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and the Google Music Store. That's www.archpodnet.com/archaeology. Now back to the show.
And we are back, and do we have final thoughts on Bears Ears do we have final thoughts on Bears Ears and what's going to happen here?
Well, I mean, I think that we've kind of given a bit of the context. We've given a bit of what's happened more recently, and now it's kind of a sit and wait, and let's see what happens when the courts actually make a decision, if they decide on whether or not the president has the right to cut back the monument. My understanding is, as of right now, the monument has not changed.
No.
So that is my understanding is nothing changes probably until this goes to court.
Well, is it a recommendation that's been given? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I think so.
Is it that he doesn't? So for an executive order, then, so that's what you'd be waiting for, right?
It has to go through, even without the challenges at the court level, it still has to go through a series of basically reevaluations. They have the areas broken up into what they want it to look like, and now they have to come up with management plans and all that kind of stuff. And until that happens, it's going to stay the way it is until all of the new stuff is put into place, along with the court challenge, which I'm sure is going to complicate things as well. So even though this is complete crap, we still got probably a year, maybe 3 or 4 before we actually see the impact of it. So in all luck, we may not ever see the impact of it. And this will just be one of those crazy things that we chalk up to this administration.
But though, if just to be one depressing note, and I don't know
that's usually my job, Ken. You're stealing my job. I
don't know the history of this, but you know that because of court case, the state of Wyoming, the president cannot name a national monument in the state of Wyoming.
I had heard that.
There's another one where
they have withdrawn from the Antiquities Act. In Alaska, if it's more than 5,000 acres, it has to be.
But these are things that happen at a state level. These affect state level. This is going to be a national effect, which is why it's going to take longer, I think.
Well, but my concern is, what if other states say, well, why don't we do what Wyoming did? Why don't we bring a court case forward, and so that our state is no longer subject to the Antiquities Act, and then you start losing states. Again, I'm being paranoid.
No,
but
it's legitimate fear.
You're not.
But
Right,
it doesn't remove the things that are within the state already. Those are still national properties. It just prevents new ones from being formed without the state's approval.
Right. No, exactly.
And I mean, no, there's nothing stopping there's nothing stopping any of the other states from doing it, to my knowledge, but I'm not a constitutional expert. So don't quote me.
And then that brings us back to the fabulous Archaeological Fantasies podcast that is actually
we are
about to save the world by talking every couple of weeks about issues like this, right?
Yeah, it's working.
We're going into our 4th year of being on the air as a podcast, and we have done a lot of evolving from the very first podcast all the way up to the podcast that we're recording right now. That's 90 episodes. So we're going to be hitting our 100th episode in 2018. And I feel like we should have like a big party or something.
I'm just trying to think what fresh hell we'll bring for the 100th episode.
I have no idea.
Is it like TV shows that once we hit 100 episodes, we start getting residuals, don't we?
Oh, syndication?
Yeah, syndication. There you go. Hey, listen, here's the thing. I know, Sarah, you've been with this. This was your baby. You started this back in the day. Then you added me in, and then we added Jeb in. And I got to say, I am incredibly proud of what we've done in this podcast. I think that it's informative. It's useful, and I think it's entertaining, and that's I don't know if you can do better in a podcast. We've covered a lot of really interesting ground. And again, this is not planned for me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I love working with you and Jeb. I look forward to doing these because I'm going to learn stuff. Every time we have a conversation, and I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to laugh because it's funny, but it's funny with a point. And so I've been really happy about what we're doing.
Technical issues aside,
right?
Men in Black and Mothman and so forth who just did that. The fact that we get to talk about crazy bullshit, we get to talk about things that are actually not crazy bullshit, but like this, that are very real and very important, and we get to have fun doing it. I don't know if I would use proud for every single episode. There was the recent crossover we did. That was not.
I'm proud of that episode.
It was hilarious.
I'm proud that we survived that episode. We are troopers.
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
that if it did not kill us, and therefore it made us stranger. But no, we do actually get to talk about very cool things. And again, I'm always gratified when I have students or people I meet, people whether they're in archaeology or not, who are like, no, I listen. You know, It is great. And again, technical issues aside, when we get together, this is a load of fun. It's not like, oh, I got to punch in and talk to Sarah and Ken. You know, that's, you know.
No,
but
I mean,
no.
Yeah, I want to second what Jeb has said. You know, because of again, this is going to sound like I'm hawking the book again, but because of my 50 Sites book, I've been doing a lot of lectures around here in Southern New England, and everywhere I go, at least one person comes up to me and say, "Oh, I love that Archaeological Fantasies podcast. We listen to it all the time." So this is something that there's a ripple here. That it really does have an impact. There are people listening to this, which is really nice.
Speaking of which, let me actually not promote like that sort of thing, just promote a thing. If anybody is in the roughly Dayton area, I will be speaking because this is going to come out in January, I'm guessing.
Yes.
I will be speaking on February 17th at the Sunwatch Center, south of Dayton. Between Cincinnati and Dayton. It's close to Dayton. David Anderson, who we've had on, I want to say either 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, something like that.
He'll be talking on Saturday, January. In fact, these are all people who are the hosts or guests. Saturday, January 20th, David Anderson will be talking about the Masonic Key, the influence of Freemasonry on public perceptions of archaeology. I'll be talking about spooky archaeology, which basically allows me to do whatever the hell I want, on Saturday, February 17th. Brad Schaefer will be talking about Archaeoastronomy is Not All Bad, Saturday, March 17th, and one Kenneth Fader will be speaking about the Goliath of New York, Anatomy of an Archaeological Hoax, which sounds a bit Cardiff-y on April 21st. So
I think that's the 20th.
Oh, okay. Well, I have Andy's email in front of me.
Oh, all right.
You just made a complete circle for us by bringing up the Cardiff Giant, because one of our,
you're right.
I think, the very first episode we ever did with Ken was Ken's famous tagline, "Giant Naked Men," was the Cardiff Giant.
Giant Naked Guy.
Giant Naked Guy.
Yep. Well, it sounds like that's what you'll get to see in person, not the actual Giant Naked Guy, because that's in Cooperstown. But
right, exactly.
But yes, so those will be happening. So yeah, just since this is our beginning of the year, end of year, whatever, that series will be starting soon. So if you're in the area, I wouldn't drive hours and hours to do it, but if you are nearby and you are a listener, you can meet one or more of us.
Yeah, Sumwich Village is an amazing place. It's an archaeological site. It's an experimental archaeological site built on the footprint of an archaeological site, and it's a wonderful museum there. It's a great place.
Yeah. And I will probably try. I can't guarantee. I have to check when the SAAs are actually. But as long as it's not the SAA weekend, I'd probably be able to come up for when Ken's there on the 21st of April, which means Sarah can't be there because there always has to be a designated survivor.
We're never allowed to be in the same place.
I will actually
exactly. Only 2 out of 3 branches can be there.
I will actually be at the SAAs. So yes, the apocalypse may or may not occur this April. We will all be there in the same space. I know. I'm thinking live recording. This will be the first time that I will ever have seen all of your faces.
Yeah, we could
4 years.
We could record it.
4 years and I've never seen you.
We could record it on magnetic tape and then put it on the leg of a pigeon, and it will be less technically difficult. So, yes.
We can all record in one room and it'll all be on one track again, like it used to be, and it will just be utter chaos.
Yeah, there will be chaos. To be honest.
Maybe somebody could just like transcribe it in cuneiform on a tablet.
Oh, yes. Just get me a block,
tablet,
and we'll do some Maya hieroglyphs.
Oh, that's fine too.
And then we'll replicate them in 3D printing and send them to people in our Patreon. Oh wait, that's somebody else. But
So I'm looking forward to the coming year, and hopefully we will get these technical glitches.
Yeah, which I mean, this is not the first time we've had them.
Right.
And I'm looking forward. I have not put in. I don't want to name the conference, but I'm looking forward to doing an international conference on these kinds of topics. So. If I do end up doing that, I will make announcements in case there are people in the UK that want to do that. I have not confirmed that. That'll be happening around the time that Spooky Archaeology, Myth and the Science of the Past will be coming out on June 15th. And
it's a perfect beach read. So you got to buy that and then go to the beach and read Spooky Archaeology.
I'm not really sure that's actually how that works.
It's a good book.
Well,
it's a good book. All the articles are good to read.
I'm going to be getting my fill of that book over the next few weeks because guess who's indexing it? I actually like indexing. So, but yes, that's
more power.
Yeah, that's my December.
Yeah. Indexing is I think indexing is really hard and it sucks, but you will do a better index of your own work than any professional indexer will ever do. And when you're done,
as someone who has to use said indexes, I truly appreciate a well done index. Thank you for taking your December to do that.
I find it really fulfilling. I have indexed 2 edited volumes so far, and only when I indexed them did I truly, really appreciate those books. Like
absolutely.
I had been an editor on them. I'm like, oh, okay, here's the problems, blah 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 blah. But then I'm like, wait, here's a connection here and a connection here. The whole thing makes sense now. and yeah.
You see the pattern.
Well, now, since I wrote this one entirely, I'm not sure that will happen because, I already know these connections. So maybe it'll just be like, oh, this has to happen and it's fine. But
nah, you'll just start making little notes for your next book.
That's already been happening.
You'll be like, oh, yeah, this thing and this thing. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. No, the whole UFOs on the cover of the New York Times thing has given me many things this week. Just saying. Maybe we'll talk about that in the future.
Oh, New York Times. Yeah. Oh, New York Times. Yeah, we should probably hit on that. All right. Personally, I'm very glad that you two have stuck with the podcast this long as you have, because God knows it has had its moments. And I am glad that our listeners are still listening to us after 4 years. Well, 3 years, we're going into the fourth. And we're hoping to continue bringing you the same high caliber quality podcast that we have in the past. And if you don't believe me that things have changed, go back and listen to our first couple episodes and then listen to our most recent ones. And
yeah, we swore a lot less.
We actually kind of did. But as far as like quality of sound, that's improved a lot. Quality of content has improved a lot. We have had some fantastic guests that have come on. We have covered some really controversial topics on top of just really fun topics. And I plan to take that forward in the future, where we're going to continue to talk about the weird and the wacky, but at the same time hit on relevant topics that are, in the news and in people's minds at the time, like the Times News UFO thing. It doesn't seem to have an apparent connection to archaeology up front, but as we start digging into it further and further,
it's interesting, and there are lots of cool things, and actually could get into archaeology, but that really would be.
We don't talk about aliens enough anyway, so
yeah, exactly. You remember when y'all had me on for that crazy initial 2 hours where I just terrified you, and then it all turned out to be true? It would have to be it would have to be a conversation like that.
Another 2-hour conversation is what you're saying?
That would be terrifying, and then turned out to be true. Yes.
Did either of you guys listen to the press conference immediately following the House vote? Because the reporter actually did ask Sarah Huckabee about the UFOs. What does Trump have to say about it? And she said, well, we've had a lot of other things to discuss, so I haven't talked about it with him. And then she moved on.
While conspiracy stuff and that gets into UFOs is big in his base, I don't think it doesn't seem to be a thing he cares about. And again, there was actually a ton of politics, and I don't really want to get into it. It's not on topic. It is on topic for our show, but to get into it at that level would be, we're not doing that now.
All right. Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Yep.
And I hope our listeners stick with us going forward into 2018, because if you liked what you've heard in the last 3 years, just be prepared for more of that. So, you guys, thanks for being on the show, and I will talk to you later in 2018.
Human evolution makes us not.
Thanks for listening to the Archaeological Fantasies podcast. You can find links to the items mentioned on the show at our website at www.archpodnet.com/archifantasies. Like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Be sure to share this episode with your friends on social media. Follow Sarah's Archifantasies blog at www.archifantasies.com. You'll also find the show on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook, also at Archifantasies. Music was provided by Archaeosoup at Archaeosoup Productions. Thanks again for listening.
We don't do dinosaurs.
This show is produced by the Archaeology Podcast Network, Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in Reno, Nevada at the Reno Collective.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
See? Are you happy? Do you get it now? Do you get it?
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply at lifemd.com. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications through LifeMD? LifeMD is now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
Probably the easiest thing I've ever done. The medication comes in the mail, and it's very easy to use. I've been able to live my normal lifestyle, and I've lost 20 pounds already, and I've never felt better. It changed my life.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to TryLifeMD.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.